When Emma first suggested the trip, it sounded harmless. One of those spontaneous weekend getaways she loved planning. "Let's surprise Daniel," she said, laughing as she sent a message to our group chat. "He's been so uptight lately. A change of scenery might help." Daniel wasn't the kind of man who complained. He worked long hours at the construction site, came home tired but gentle, and never asked for much beyond peace. Maybe that was why no one thought twice when Emma insisted we all play a little prank. The idea was simple: drive him a few hours out of town, drop him near the cabin, and make him find his way back using only his instincts. "It'll be fun," she said. "He loves survival stuff." He laughed when we blindfolded him. I remember how he smiled, trusting us completely. "You guys better not ditch me in the woods," he joked. The air smelled of pine and early rain as we left him there with nothing but a backpack, a bottle of water, and that easy trust he always had in people. We drove off, still laughing. Emma filmed the whole thing for her vlog, the husband-loss challenge. I remember feeling uneasy, but her excitement was contagious. She was my best friend, and Daniel's wife. Who was I to question her sense of humor? Hours later, when the fun wore off, we tried to call him. No answer. Emma rolled her eyes. "He's probably ignoring us to make it more dramatic." By evening, the laughter had faded. The forest roads were darker than we remembered, and the GPS kept losing signal. We searched for him until midnight, calling his name into the cold wind. Still nothing. Emma's voice shook when she finally whispered, "Maybe we went too far." We reported him missing the next morning. The officers looked skeptical at first, until they realized it wasn't just a silly couple's fight. Days turned into weeks. Search dogs, helicopters, local volunteers, everyone tried. They found his jacket near a riverbank, torn and muddy. No footprints, no trail, just silence. Emma fell apart on camera. The same followers who laughed at her prank video now filled her comments with hate. "You're a monster. You killed your husband." She stopped posting after that. A month later, a man knocked on my door. It was Daniel. Thinner, darker somehow. His eyes hollow like he'd seen things he couldn't explain. He didn't hug me or smile. He just said, "Where's Emma?" I told him she'd moved back to her parents' place. He nodded slowly, as if confirming something he already knew. "Don't tell her I'm here," he said, voice low. "I just came to collect what's mine." There was something in his tone that froze me. Not anger, not grief, just cold certainty. He asked if I still had the video files. I hesitated. He smiled faintly. "You always backed up everything, didn't you?" That night, I watched him sit on the porch for hours, staring into the dark fields. When I finally asked what happened out there, he said quietly, "I stopped being the man she left in the woods." He didn't elaborate. He just packed a small bag and left before sunrise. A week later, news broke that Emma's parents had reported a break-in. Nothing was stolen, just her phone, laptop, and camera equipment. She swore she saw someone standing at the end of the driveway before the lights went out. Police said it was probably a burglary. But when they checked the footage from the old cabin security camera, the same one we used during the prank, it showed something else. A man standing by the tree line, motionless, watching the house. The timestamp? 2 hours before Daniel came to see me. Emma called me 2 days later, her voice trembling. "He's back, isn't he?" I didn't answer. She started crying, loud, frantic sobs that didn't sound like guilt anymore, but fear. "He was outside my window last night. I swear, I saw him." I told her maybe it was just her mind playing tricks. But deep down, I knew Daniel's stare wasn't the kind you imagined. It lingered even when he wasn't there. The next morning, she disappeared. No note, no message. Her car was still in the driveway, keys on the counter, phone left charging. Police searched for her again, just like they had for him. The circle had reversed. Weeks passed. Daniel never came back to my place, but I kept seeing small signs. Muddy footprints by my back door. A cigarette, but that wasn't mine. A faint knock at 3 a.m. Once, I found a folded photo of the three of us, Emma, Daniel, and me, taken during that trip, now water-damaged and ripped in half. His face was the only one still visible. I tried to move on. Everyone did. The police eventually closed Emma's case as missing under unclear circumstances. But that phrase didn't sit right. One evening, I went back to the cabin, needing closure. The woods looked different. Quieter, like they remembered everything. The air smelled the same, though, that wet pine and earth scent. Inside the cabin, dust covered everything. But on the table sat a small box. Inside it, a wedding ring. Daniel's. There was also a note written in handwriting that wasn't his. The woods take what they're owed. I drove home trembling, my hands cold on the steering wheel. That night, I locked every door, but sleep never came. At dawn, I heard the front door creak. Slow steps moved down the hallway. Then a voice, calm and familiar. "You shouldn't have let her laugh." I turned on the light, but the hall was empty. Just the sound of rain against the window. I told myself it was stress, the mind playing tricks again. A few days later, I got a call from a detective in another county. They'd found a burnt-out vehicle deep in the forest. Inside, they'd discovered traces of female DNA. The car was registered to Emma. The detective asked if I knew anyone named Daniel Hayes. My throat went dry. He said the name matched an ID found not far from the site, but the fingerprints didn't belong to him. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Daniel had said. I stopped being the man she left in the woods. Maybe he wasn't exaggerating. Maybe something in that forest broke him in a way the rest of us couldn't understand. A week later, a letter arrived at my doorstep, no return address. Inside was a single line written in Daniel's handwriting. "When you bury someone's laughter, the silence grows roots." There was no signature, no clue, just that line. Months passed. The story faded from the news. People moved on. But I still drive past the forest sometimes. I swear I can see someone standing near the tree line, where the shadows bend a little too perfectly, like a man watching the road, waiting. Once, I pulled over, trying to convince myself it was nothing more than memory. But then I noticed something carved into the trunk of an old oak near the trailhead. "We took him too far from home." The same words Emma had said before the trip. I backed away, heart pounding, feeling that same guilt twist inside me. The kind that never really leaves. Because maybe Daniel never came back at all. Maybe what returned that day was something else. Something colder. Carrying the echo of every cruel laugh we shared at his expense. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind moves just right through the trees, I hear it again. A faint laugh, half human, half empty, coming from far beyond the edge of town. That's when I close my window, whisper a silent apology, and pray he never finds his way home again.